You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome, and you are listening and watching the Financial Survival Network, and I'm Kerry Lutz. Well, gold, silver, they're holding steady right around $1,730 the ounce. Gold, that is. Silver in the 23s. Not much action happening today. Is the gold slam, is it over, or do we have more to go? And is it a shakeout of weaker holders? Well, let's talk to our good friend, Chris Vermeulen. You know Chris well from thetechnicaltraders.com. Chris, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Well, that was some pretty unbelievable action, volatility in gold and silver, seeing a flash crash, a so-called flash crash. $100 an ounce down yesterday before the open on the COMEX, recovered quite a bit, but never quite got back to even, down $35 or $7 the ounce yesterday. What's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a bloodbath in the markets, especially if you look at the precious metals, both gold and silver. The futures over the past 4 or 5 trading sessions, every day we've seen a big high volume bout of selling in the futures market, and we just see the metals just go big red bars to the downside, just getting clobbered. I mean, gold was down almost 5% in pre-market at one point there this week, and it did have a bounce back and recovery, but there's definitely some big selling and price action going on right now. And the big washout that we saw in gold, it's got a lot of people nervous. The volume we're seeing today, the volume we're seeing post that drop is kind of, to me, feels like high volume from the average trader. I think a lot of precious metals, people who own precious metals, are actually getting a little nervous because gold's fallen so much in the last really month and a half. It's down pretty dramatically. I think it's got them selling, but somebody is definitely accumulating. And I think gold may have put in a really significant bottom this month. Now, I think we're still going to see some pressure. I don't think it's just going to be this one long spike, this 1 minute spike to the downside. I think we could see selling for another month or so and come back down to test those lows around 1,700, 16 kind of 80. But overall, I think this is a really major bottom, because that sell-off was also a technical move. It was a Fibonacci 100% move to the downside. And that level has been support several times in history going back. So while people are panicking, it's actually a golden opportunity, pardon the pun.
Yeah, there's so many great puns available to us on this show. So really, it doesn't faze me. I mean, look, volatility, that's what traders kind of live for. Mm-hmm. Volatility at key points to shake the weak hands out of the market. And really, when you see something advance and then pull back like this, you got to take it in perspective, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, gold is still in a raging bull market. The pattern it has is very big, and it's been trading sideways and lower really for the past year. But when you look at the big picture of gold, it really is just a giant bull flag pattern pointing to much higher prices. Gold down at support, people are starting to panic. That's usually a sign of a bottom. And that's how you got to look at it at this point, because it isn't a big uptrend, and this should resolve to the upside eventually, but it's got to work itself out. This is a multi-year pattern. It's going to take more than a one-day, big sell order to put in a bottom. It's still going to work itself up over the next few months and create a new shorter-term uptrend to kick things back into gear.
Hey, so looking at the chart that you have on the screen right now, and for those of you who are just listening just on audio, it's basically showing, I guess, a pretty dramatic upswing and then a correction, a consolidation. Almost looks like it's doing a descending wedge there, doesn't it?
Yeah. So more or less, when you look at the chart and you zoom back to like 2013 or so, gold broke out of this big basing pattern in 2019. Gold was the first precious metal really to kind of pop and break. And then we saw this, more or less this kind of 1.5 year run to the upside. And now it's been trading sideways and slowly drifting lower, creating what looks to be like a flagpole, which is the strong rally, and then the flag waving down in a pattern. And that is known as a really strong pattern. It's known as a halfway point, meaning we could see gold continue to push higher. And based on the pattern we're in right now, it's pointing to roughly $2,500, $2,600 gold, probably in the next year to 2 years. So that's what this pattern is pointing to.
All right. And like you got to look at the charts, because looking at prices is only half the info really, or half the picture to get the true picture of it. So looking at it here, silver, what are we seeing with silver?
Well, silver's been doing a lot of the same thing. Silver had a huge run. It broke out last year. There's a little bit of delay for silver to start a bull market. Really, since last August, we've seen silver trade sideways. It's been out of favor. It's been holding up actually very well. Gold has been making a series of lower highs and lower lows, flagging down, where silver's actually just been trading sideways, kind of range bound between $29 an ounce and down to roughly 22. Now this $22 level was actually pretty much tagged this week with that big wallop that silver got hit with, a big slam, big order on Sunday when the markets opened. And that's a really strong support level. And silver's bounced pretty nice off that. It's bounced over about a dollar and change up from that level. And silver is at the lower end of the range. I mean, as a long-term investor in precious metals, silver broke into a bull market last year, and it's now pulled back. It's at support. And as long as 22 holds, I mean, this is a great opportunity for precious metals investors to, more or less add to your stacks, because it should naturally want to go back up to the upper end of the range from 22 or 23 all the way to 29 is a pretty decent gain. Even if it doesn't break out and start a new rally above that, there's some good opportunity. So silver's in much of the same boat. It's been kind of dead money. It's dormant for the last year, but it is still in a big pattern that's pointing to higher prices.
All right. What do you think the time frame of all this is going to be? Any idea?
It's real tough to call. I mean, based on the pattern in gold and silver here, we'd be looking at the next year to 2 years to see like their first kind of breakout and run. I think silver would run somewhere to $36, $38. I think gold could run to $2,500, $2,600. I do think there's potential for them to go a lot higher, but there's going to be a lot of other things that'll probably come into play that will need to unfold. Who knows what those triggers will be? Probably the dollar breaking down in a big way. Could be a lot more uncertainty of maybe things get a lot worse with the economy. Maybe something happens in the Bitcoin market where there's more regulation and maybe money moves out of Bitcoin and goes back into metals. Who knows? But there is some pretty big upside potential in gold based on these patterns, especially when you look back over, 10, 15 years. This is really kind of ramping up for a huge move in precious metals.
Yeah. The charts, looking at them, really don't look that bad, as the headlines and the near panic, the flash crash kind of imply. But when you look at the charts, it really is in perspective there. So let's move on. So the dollar, what's the deal with the dollar? It's kind of been trading a little sideways in the 90s here.
Yeah, so I don't have the dollar index here, but more or less when you look at the dollar chart, the price action, it has been trying to put in a bottom here for really all of 2021. It's kind of put in a double bottom down in January, came back or put in a bottom in January, came back down to test it this June, and now it's back up to resistance, and it's trying to break out. And the weekly chart of the dollar really gives a clean picture of kind of where this price pattern could go. I think we could see the US dollar rally about 2% from where it is right now, which doesn't seem like much, but for a currency, it's a pretty decent move. If the dollar pops and breaks out, over the next week or two and does that run, I think we could see gold kind of and silver fade back down to the lows that we saw this week, those spike lows, and kind of just retest the 22 on silver, that 1700 on gold. And at that point, I also think the dollar will be topping out at the next resistance level. So it's going to be interesting to see how all these play out. But the dollar is pointing to higher prices. It's primed and ready to pop and rally. And it's going to definitely put some delay the move in metals, I think, going forward.
No doubt. So I know you're not big crypto, but you do follow Bitcoin. What are we seeing with Bitcoin here? Because it hit 65.5. That was clearly parabolic move. I knew it was going down from there. Is the damage over in Bitcoin? I mean, it's basically retraced 50%, right?
Yeah, so Bitcoin corrected about 54% from the highs. Going back to 2010, the average kind of bubble pop has usually been average around 74%. So Bitcoin hasn't pulled back as much as it has done 6 other times, but it has been trading sideways, trying to carve out a bottom. The big question was over the last couple of months is which way is this pattern going to break? And last week we actually saw Bitcoin break to the upside. I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. We saw it, our last week, it broke out of this pattern, which is around 42,000, 41,000 and change. And it's now back into an uptrend. So it looks like it's put in a bottom. I think we're going to continue to see Bitcoin push up to around 51 or 52,000. That's kind of the next measured move for Bitcoin. And then we'll have to see how it digests that move. Now, when you go back in time and you look at how Bitcoin has moved, typically we have this big rally, this huge blow off top, like we saw up to 65,000, and then it crashes down, and then it's going to create a large bull flag pattern and oscillate for generally about a year. Now, it's already been several months. We're already, 4 months, 3 months into this move. So potentially by the end of this year, Bitcoin could have this giant bull flag that breaks to the upside, and the next move could be pretty significant. In fact, now that Bitcoin has kind of started a new uptrend, we can use technical analysis to figure out where this upside move is going to start. And if we were to just use Fibonacci extension, which uses the price momentum, it's going to tell us where the next major resistance level is. The first one is going to be right up near the highs, around 65, 66,000. And that's a 61% extension from this current move. And typically, if that is hit and price pauses or pulls back there, then it's going to go up and hit that 100% measured move. Now, the 61% extension I just talked about happens to be the previous high. And this happens almost all the time, it seems. It's just the way the markets move. They move in Fibonacci kind of sequence. So there is going to be major resistance at 65, 66,000. But after that, we're looking around $88,000, $89,000 in Bitcoin to the upside. So it's on its way. It's in a sideways consolidation in a short-term uptrend right now. And 66,000 is kind of the first major resistance area on Bitcoin.
Interesting. Really, really interesting there. You got any, I know you were talking about the Russell 2000. You thinking that's getting ready to break out as well?
Yeah, the Russell 2000.
Look at that chart. Look at that chart. If you can't see it, it's the Russell 2000 really has been, it had an amazing move the past couple of years. Last year, it was up dramatically, but even the year before, and now it hasn't pulled back much. It's been kind of consolidating, right? Really kind of stuck in a channel there, isn't it?
Don't just survive, thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
FPX Nickel is developing the large-scale Dakar Nickel District in central British Columbia. Within the district is FPX Nickel's PEA stage Baptiste nickel deposit, which is projected to be among the world's top 10 largest nickel mines by annual output. The Baptiste deposit has the potential for the lowest quartile operating costs at just $2.74 per pound. And compared to recent global nickel mines, the project requires a low capex. FPX is also commencing its first ever drill program at its Van target in the Dakar Nickel District. Surface surface samples have indicated that the Van target footprint is larger in scale and 10 to 15% higher in grade than Baptiste. FPX nickel trades in Canada as FPX and on the OTC under FPOCF. To learn more, go to fpxnickel.com. That's fpxnickel.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
Yeah, so last year we saw the Russell 2000 put in a really strong rally from October all the way into March of this year, and it was about a 62% move in that index, which is pretty mind-blowing. And since then, pretty much all of this year, it's been trading sideways in a very narrow range. And the longer something trades sideways, the bigger the breakout is going to be when it does. Whichever way it breaks, it's going to be very powerful. And really, we're just seeing the Russell 2000 come down. It tested the 200-day moving average last month. It's working up some momentum here. If it breaks to the upside, the Russell 2000 has the potential to run very easily just over 30% to the upside. And I think this is important because this year, we haven't really seen individual sectors just skyrocketing higher. There's the odd little sector here and there moving, but we're not seeing what we saw last year, which was a whole whack of sectors just in full-on rally mode, huge volume moving in, volume increasing week after week. This year has just been total sideways chop. Most sectors are struggling. When they do break out, they don't really follow through and keep going. And the Russell 2000 shows that very clearly, how it's been a really kind of range-bound market. And what I think could happen, and what I kind of hope happens here, is we do get a breakout in the Russell, and we see this rally start. And that, to me, is going to create a capitulation kind of euphoric stage with investors. So I've been talking with several investors in the last week who've called me, and they're all saying the same thing. They're like, what's going on with the markets? They're in cash trying to be defensive and protect their money. But they're like, I can't take it. These, the major indexes keep going to all-time highs like every week. I'm missing the move. And I think when the Russell and the stock market has another surge and pushes higher another 5 or 10%, I think all the investors who are trying to be defensive and sitting in cash expecting some correction, they're going to break. They're going to have FOMO. They're going to be like, I can't take it. This is ridiculous. I'm missing the whole stock market move. I'm getting in and I don't care. And that's what creates that euphoric phase. And as that money piles in, they drive the price up. And we're going to see some very big vertical price on the SP 500, on the NASDAQ, something that looks very, very kind of Bitcoin-ish in terms of a huge vertical pop, a major rally, big percentage gains in like only a couple of weeks or a few months. And that will be the sign that, okay, the masses are now capitulating. They are now in FOMO. This is the leftover money who hasn't got into the market. They're now dumping their money in. They can't handle it. And as the price rallies faster and faster, it convinces more of them that they need to get in. And so that's what I think might happen. And precious metals in miners, this is when they actually come to life. When we see euphoric in the stock market, gold, silver, and miners start to come to life. And by the end of it, they become a leading sector. And then the stock market will end up, once it's exhausted, we'll start to trade sideways in a really choppy pattern. And we'll see the gold miners continue to soar and be, the number one asset class, and they will make huge leaps and bounds to the upside. So this is like the perfect storm slowly brewing. If this happens, that's how I think it's going to unfold. And these are big multi-year patterns, so it's taken time to play out. But I'm really excited to see how this plays out over the next 4 to 8 months is when I think all this is going to unfold.
And like you said, last year with its huge increase, almost over 62%, it was the leading index on the market. Everything else followed the Russell, and that's pretty significant. And your numbers are correct here. What you're projecting, it's going to start leading the market again. And that's going to be the big shocker. Like you said, more and more people will say, oh my goodness, it's all taken off. I got to be in it to win it. Yeah. And they're just going to pile on. and then we'll really see some movement here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting the next few months going into year end for sure.
Yeah. So we have to get through the summer doldrums, sell in May and go away. Is that what we're looking at?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I mean, this market it kind of wants to keep melting up. Money is definitely rotating into the big blue chips. Everyone, the fact that the Russell's not breaking out is saying to us that, hey, people aren't willing to go into these high flyers, these new companies. They don't want to get into these speculative small cap stocks, but they want to put their money into the big stable companies, and a lot of them are technology. So we are seeing the NASDAQ SP 500 continue to grind to new highs. I think we just keep our eye on the Russell, and we'll see when it starts to break out. That to me is when investors are getting really bullish again, and they're saying, you know what, I'm getting into the stock market, and they're going to get into the most leveraged plays. That's what they always do. They're going to be buying leveraged ETFs, get into the small caps, try and make the biggest gains. And when we see those things, the volume in both of those asset classes starting to move, that's when we know like the herd mentality is on. The masses are piling back into risk, and you want to make sure you're part of it because it's going to potentially be very explosive.
So I'm looking at it. What's the resistance point it has to go through that'll confirm this?
Right. So if you're looking at the IWM, which is the Russell 2000, it's around $235 a share. And then if it breaks that, I think it's going to run up to roughly about $300 a share. So it's about a $65 move on that. And so there's pretty good upside.
Right. And it's not really that far from breaking out, is it?
It's not. It's in the middle of the range. I mean, it's above the 50 or the 200-day. It's flirting to break above the 50-day. It really is primed and ready to pop and run any day here. And once it starts, it's going to happen pretty quick. I think it'll unfold. There's going to be a flurry of money, and we're going to see emotions flying real high in the stock market. It's a pretty crazy vibe of investors when you get into this euphoric stage in the headline media news. And I mean, it's very emotional and exciting, but it doesn't end well for most people.
Yeah, well, because they zig when they should zag, and they zag when they should zig. I've been guilty of that myself. Yeah, what I just find that fascinating. I don't know if you've ever read about how companies jockey to get included into the Russell 2000. Like Russell has a few indices, the 1000, I think the 2000 and the 3000. The 2000 is the important one. And companies lobby, and they're all trying to get in there, and they can't just blow them off and say, it's our call, because they have to work with these companies to some extent. But it's kind of like trying to get a Nobel Prize. It's not just like you sit around waiting for the committee to just crown you. Most of them are out there actively lobbying for the honor and the accolades and the wealth that comes along with it. The same with the Russell 2000.
Yeah.
So interesting times ahead. Hey, one thing I wanted to cover, you're involved in a project that I find really, really fascinating and highly beneficial. That is to help students actually start businesses, which me as a lifelong small business person, entrepreneur, I always say I have like 5 or 6 careers under my belt. Every 10 years, I'm trying to reinvent myself, but I don't know that I got another 10 years to do that in. I find that like really a great thing, because business formations in the U.S. are down, or had been down until recently. And really, it's the lifeblood of the U.S., Canadian, and global economies.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm working with the team here. We've created a company called Early Start, and we spell it early as in a website, Earl, because we're teaching kids in school, pretty much ages 8 and up, how to build micro website businesses. So like a one-page website, and these kids can create and make physical products and sell them locally. They could do their own services and create their own summer jobs for lawn care, dog walking, whatever it is they want to do. Or they can actually create digital products and sell them. And, it automatically gets emailed to their customers. And these kids are learning how to create a web page. We can create a web page in about 26 minutes. My daughter and I did it together. We recorded the whole process of building her little business, and kids can follow it. It doesn't require any coding. You just drag and drop. You get to, create all the things you want on there. And these kids become little business owners. They are so proud of what they've created. And the cool thing is, depending on the age of the kids and what they're selling, but the parents can, share it on their social and on their Facebook. So can the kids. And it's almost instant success, because there's always going to be a friend or relative who wants to buy something right away, usually the same day, or they wake up in the morning to an order, and the kids realize, oh my gosh, as long as they have a computer, the world is wide open for them to do whatever they want. My daughter has got a whole bunch of little businesses lined up. She's already taught her friends how to build a web page, web business, doing the same thing. And I mean, everyone just is excited about it, and they can't stop talking about it. And she even got cards from Vistaprint done and a sign in the front yard. She just loves it. And she's done hundreds of dollars in sales. And she even sends emails out to her list, little tiny emails saying, hey, I'm making another batch of dog cookies. She does homemade dog cookies, and people stop by and they buy bags of stuff. They order it online, pay online, but then they pick it up. It's pretty cool. She ships stuff to the States as well. And it's a real eye-opening experience. And now she's realized there's the digital side. She's realized, hey, we could package up her little dog treat business, her recipe, how she, the product descriptions, all that stuff, and make a video and how to market it. And she can sell this mini little dog treat business online to all kinds of other kids who want to start to do the same thing. And now she doesn't have to make cookies anymore, which she's super excited about. They can buy it, how to build their own business, and it instantly emails to them when they buy it. So I'm just trying to create, we want to help millions of kids around the world have their first online business, get a taste of success, like almost overnight. And it really opens the doors to what they can do. They're not stuck to a job. They're not dreading all that stuff. They're going to realize, hey, they can do stuff on the side that keeps them happy and excited while they're at work, or they can do a whole bunch of their own things.
I love it. It reminds me of that movie, Risky Business. Hopefully they'll stay legal. Remember that movie? But,
Yeah.
They were all in junior achievement. And, Joel had been involved in, let's put it this way, promoting the world's oldest profession, or maybe, if you include politics, maybe the world's second oldest profession. And he gets very successful at it. But like other entrepreneurs, budding entrepreneurs, he hits a few bumps in the road, but he winds up attending Princeton. So everything works out in the end for him. And hopefully the same will happen for people who are doing early start. I'm kind of excited to be helping you get this out to the world, because entrepreneurism. I'm fourth generation entrepreneur, and yet none of my three children have yet to start their own business. So I'm a little disappointed. And maybe if they had been involved in this earlier, things might have turned out different. Don't get me wrong. They're all successful. I'm proud of them. But to me, corporate America is just not what it used to be.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for your help here. I appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Hey, got a question for Chris about his expert chart analysis or about earlystart.com. Just shoot me an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Don't forget, sign up for our newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Check out Chris at thetechnicaltraders.com. Chris, always enlightening, always a pleasure, and we will talk to you again real soon.
Great. Thanks, Kerry. Take care. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.